Hi, good morning. So I see very much our own set of people and faces here. Good morning. So my topic today is about workspaces. Currently, what we've been working on, and how is our approach to lighting design for workspaces. So to start off with, I have a couple of case studies of our own projects and some referral pictures and content that we do. The basic principle of lighting, I think, from any of us, I think any of our lighting design fraternity friends would also follow this, and most of the design firms would work upon is, these are three principles by Richard Kelly, which we follow throughout in all our projects and all our design propositions that we get to work on. The idea was to create an ambient lighting, some directional points, and then mood controls to work around. So these are three parameters how we work around a space. Some of these are how we divide our space, especially when we get to work with our designers, the architects and interior designers of the projects. We always try to understand the space first. We kind of divide the space into a couple of zones, and each of the zones have their own set of activities, and each of the activities has got their own moods that needs to be created in terms of lighting and layering, how we work around. So each of these spaces, how we have treated is something that we're going to talk about and we're going to run you through. So like typical space planning, we also understand each of the work zones, and each of this work zone gets divided into the way how we want to treat them. So when it's going to be the entry point or the arrival point, or we call it as the lobby spaces. Each of these spaces have their own determinations of, the kind of users that's going to come in, or the branding aspect to it, or, what kind of impressions that we want to create the space. So one is to start with, the sense of arrival, that is, how it's been kind of defined, and the layering of lighting, and we work around, maybe it could be a possibility of creating an ambient lighting or in some sort of focus to it. So that's one area of the focus. Of course, these are the parameters how we've done some of our projects, and in terms of more indirect, diffuse, and multiple layering that is kind of done in each of the spaces. When it comes to collaborative workspaces, it's more about how we want each of the spaces to have kind of a sense to have a separate identity. So when it comes to areas like collaborative work zones, it's more about more of brainstorming areas. It's more about a creative environment which creates a lot of moods and sets that kind of have them an area for them to have an easy collaborations to work around. So some of these are some of our projects that we've done, which is kind of how we've treated the spaces. Each of these spaces, again, depends on how it has to be rendered or valued to us. The more interaction that we have with the designer, how they have approached, and each of the clientele, each of the projects are different. I mean, in terms of the culture of the work or the culture of the space, or the brand has its own identity, how they want to work and approach. Some are, more of a day offices, some are like 24-hour office spaces, where how they want to have these workspaces, and the work cultures are very different. And how we've approached of these are with different layering. So you could see this, we've kind of taken out certain contrast between, the specific areas where they're going to sit and work around, and some areas where it's just a pass-through areas, how we've kind of addressed it. So again, it's different spaces, right? I mean, it's very much to do with the interior designers we work with. How the briefing is given, and how the work spaces are supposed to be given to us, or how it's supposed to be delivered for each of the users. So it purely depends on the kind of ideas that's given to us, and how we kind of silently treat, and the lights gets integrated into the space. It's more about collaborations with the designers, how we would like to have each of the zones to speak for itself. So some of these are, again, where most of our projects, how we've kind of treated, we always try to add up these three values that I was speaking about. One is about ambient lighting, creating a central focus, or be it in terms of, the focal that we want to create over here. So it's not necessary all the time that we need to work only with a particular level of uniform flat lights alone, but it's sometimes depending on the usages of the spaces, where we need to really concentrate when it comes to workspaces. Today, the workspaces have changed a lot. It's more to do with, it's about it's more of video conferencing that's kind of part of it, and how we kind of treat those spaces. And more of vertical lighting is something that is needed today, which is changing quite a bit from where it used to be. It was more about office-based work, and now it's more about virtual-based work. So each of these spaces have their necessity to consider about vertical lighting, which is probably was just focused only to boardrooms. Now I think each of the zones, now most of us work through the phones, tablets, and our works are changing. The work cultures have changed quite a bit. So we kind of consider the new workspaces needs to be uniform when it comes to maybe a huddle space, or maybe it's going to be a small phone booth areas, which still is working out to be most of the people's day-to-day workspaces. So, the new ideas that comes into workspaces are no more just a flat, direct, linears and 2x2s that's going to come into the picture. It's more about the design integrations of light fixtures. I think we don't really try to come in as a last element into the project, just try to fit in somewhere. I think as we see, lighting is kind of always been more collaborative into the spaces. So the more we try to get more number of details from the project, we try to integrate lighting into the very much into the architecture and interior spaces. So again, the breakout spaces are different for each of the zones. Some could be like, comfortable seating spaces, or it could be a cafe, it could be a breakout space. Any of these spaces, I mean, the color tones or the color temperatures that we play around with, that's kind of like, it's how we define the spaces, and how it's kind of changing. And it used to be a very flat set of one color tone, one color temperature throughout the workspaces. But today the workspaces have changed quite a bit. Each of them have their own set of necessities and needs to work around with. So how we approach each of the project, I think any of us as lighting designers, we would try to take up the step. We try to learn the project first, try to understand the detailing, then we kind of, study the kind of, the lux level that's needed, or the kind of reflection factors to it needed, and then we work around with the sites with mock-ups and, more of detailing that comes around. Well, this is, the color temperatures are kind of spoken about rather. I mean, I wouldn't call it as a human-centric lighting is something that everybody is talking about as a new era, but I think each of our spaces has always been designed for humans. I think it's a new terminology that we just call it as human-centric lighting, but lighting is always for humans. I mean, the design spaces was always for human. So it's just that the color temperatures advantages that we have with today's LED shift that's happening. A lot of controls is something that is part of the lighting. It was just not about having a separate system, but now lighting controls and lighting is part of the system, which is something that we've kind of seeing, it's kind of every workspaces are part of this. I would say the new add-on that I'm getting to address to the new workspaces is more to do with IoT-based lighting, which is typically an integrations. I mean, lighting is no more just a fixture that just gives a lot of, lights that's needed or ambience that's needed. I think it's becoming more of a two-way communication tool as well. So lighting is giving a lot of feedbacks now. So what we use out of lighting, which was the lighting sensors, now every space needs lighting, and each of the lights can give you back some messages and details. I think with IoT, it's a very vast subject which we can go on, but how we've kind of approached, this is a solution that we've done for a project which is there in my next presentations. We've done a complete project with an entire set of details that we've given to you, which has been done to a project. We've integrated lighting as the main focal point, where these are giving data back to throughout the project in terms of IoT. How the new age IoT is becoming part of a system today, I don't think we can disagree to this. I think most of our workspaces, whoever has been designing, whether it's lighting or interior designers or the consultants into the project, have to really get used to this. This is what is kind of part of our system today. it's becoming, it's no more just lighting is just flat for everybody. I think it's becoming more personalized, and same as your HVAC system, same as your, each of the areas, each of the zones. Some of them don't want direct lighting. Some of them want extremely subtle lighting. Some of them really don't want to work with the very bright spaces around it. So that's changing quite a bit. Now, meeting rooms, calling into a specific timeline, requirement, booking of it, and now all of us have, especially after COVID, all of us have really kind of got into this. The virtual meetings have become so much part of our life today, where, booking up virtual meetings have become part of our hybrid workspaces. So this is one of our, I do have 2 videos which I would like to show it for 2 of our project which we've done it. This is for a project in Gurgaon, which we did it for Indigo, which is a kind of integrations of the entire thing which I told you. We've kind of addressed each of this area with IoT-based controls. And the project is throughout with dynamic lighting control, which has got different color temperatures to work around on different time zones. The office is kind of divided into day and evening and 24/7 office spaces. So each of the spaces have some sort of a unique identity, but at the same time, it just blends into it. This is another project which is a first hybrid, 100% hybrid office space in Bangalore for another multinational brand again, for where we've done a lot of blend of color temperatures. We've kind of identified zones. We used a lot of controls and IoT again here. Thank you.